Welcome to Scrapbook Live. I'm Megan Jax, and today is March 29th. It's the end of the month, our last Wednesday in March. So we're going to be putting together borders. I have a handout for today. If you are on Facebook, you'll see the first comment has a link to my webpage that has the PDF that you can download and print. If you're watching this on YouTube, there will be a link in the description below that you can go ahead and grab that handout. These are all borders from the Creative Memories blog. So there's links, there is a QR code for each one of these borders that you could follow if you want to see the blog directions. The blog has tons of borders out there. If you guys love borders, you definitely need to be checking out what the Creative Memories blog has to offer. Lots of ideas out there. And I will tell you, work through some of those projects because you will get more comfortable with different concepts of how you can put borders together. A lot of times there's repetitive or the same concepts are used in different borders. And so you'll start to see those techniques come through, and then you'll get more comfortable with your tools and the design components of putting borders together for your projects. So today's project, I picked out 3 borders that were done with more outdoorsy. They were done with deep in the woods, or they have the oak tree with the one of our Totally Tonals pack from last year. I'm doing summer borders. I have a ton of scraps for my summer collections. I really wanted us to just use scraps today, no cutting 12 by 12 paper. So you're going to be working through your cardstock scraps. You're looking through your decorative paper scraps, all of that fun stuff. Just use scraps. I will tell you, you can cheat a little bit as if you're using a mat. Sometimes mats will have different patterns on them that we like to use and to incorporate, and they work really great with borders because they're smaller pieces. So we can cut apart those mats to use in borders. So if you have to cut apart a mat because you're maybe just working through, that's what's left over in your collection, go ahead and do that. But no 12 by 12 papers today. Really try hard not to cut those 12 by 12 papers. All right, I'm going to switch over to my desktop and we will get going. So the first border that we're going to put together today, actually I have these in reverse because this is not the first border. The stuff that's here I was going to use for border number 2, and border number 1, oh here it is. I do have myself slightly organized. I'm going to be using some stuff from, well, I think it's Electric Summer, which was a couple of years ago, one of my favorite summer collections, but it's really hit and miss. And what is inspired, not hit and miss, it's just a eclectic bunch of papers here. What I can tell you here is I liked this mat. And so on our border here where they have this little tag that comes down, this ribbon, I'm actually going to cut my mat to fit that piece there. So I will chop my mat down, measure in here, and give myself that ribbon effect, but it's got that built-in title, which they use here, and I thought that was cute. So that really then kind of helped me guide my my paper choices. So I went through my summer collection, and it's a beach theme. So obviously I'm going to pull. I had some sand. Sand's always wonderful for the beach. I had some of the sunglass paper from Electric Summer. The opposite side is a little bit more of a this bluish violet color in there. So I'll be using a little bit of both sides of that paper. I have some turquoise. This is from it's actually from the last year's quarterly pack that we had last year. I'm having a really hard time now remembering what paper pack that was from, but it was from the little 5-pack or 6-pack of paper. And then I just have some other papers in here. I'm going to use this. They have a lighter background for where they show the trees. This has a little bit of a subtle pattern to it. Got little pinkish dots in there that are really hard to see. Rather than using just white cardstock, I'm going to use that. And then I have just some other scraps, a little bit of yellow, because I've pulled 3 different punches. I've got the umbrella, the Adirondack chair, and sun. So I'm going to be pulling 3 punches into this. So I wanted to have some variety of colors of cardstock scraps. I do have a designer yellow paper in there. This was from Toil and Trouble. I just like it ended up in my summer collection because it has the aqua and the yellows. Those are great summer colors. And then I've got some cardstock colors that go with this that I can pull from if I need to. So that's kind of what I'm working with. I am going to be using the square punch. Now the directions, when this post first came out, I don't have the date. I can't remember when it first came out. We did not have the square punch yet. So it wasn't available, but I think we can use it. Step 3 talks about you cut 6 1.5-inch squares with the white. And then they want you to mount on 6 1 5/8-inch squares of the background. I'm going to go ahead, instead of 1 5/8, 1/8 of an inch larger is the 1 3/4, which is the square punch. So what I'll end up with is a little bit of a bigger piece around here. The different squares will have a little bit more of a mat that you'll be able to see. I'm okay with that because it's just so much faster to punch with the square than it is to actually cut squares out with my trimmer. So I'll be cutting the 6 1.5-inch squares from the paper here, and then I will actually be probably using some different colors with the square punch, and then that will house my 3 different punches here. So we'll go ahead and get started. My background color is going to be this turquoise starfish. So that piece, it says here, needs to be a 2 3/4 by 12. 2 3/4 by 12. So grab my trimmer, and I'm going to cut this down to 2 3/4. 2 3/4 by 12. I should be keeping my trimmer close by. So 2 3/4 by 12. Next up, I need a 1 1/8-inch strip of the green hues, the scattered leaves. That's the top piece here. That's 1 1/8. My top piece is actually going to be my sunglasses. So I need to cut this to 1 1/8. Lining this up, cutting it to 1 1/8. That's going to sit kind of at the top. So I've got a couple rows of those sunglasses. That'll be perfect. I'm going to keep this paper close by because I'm going to be using the back side of it when I start cutting squares. And then I need another 1 1/8-inch strip that's going to sit below it. So I'll have 2 1 1/8-inch strips, and I'm going to be using this sandpaper for that. So I'm going to come over here to 1 1/8 and trim this down. And this is just mixing and matching. I'm a little concerned. Yeah, I did not cut my paper straight. This piece, somehow, I'm going to recut my sunglasses. I managed to not cut that straight. Let's try it again. Or my paper wasn't straight to begin with. That's probably more likely what it is. So I'm cutting a new 1 1/8-inch piece. Much, much better. So those are going to sit on there as such. So let me go ahead and adhere these pieces in place. Have you guys been enjoying your silicone mats? I was just talking with Tessa yesterday. We had painted garden workshop last night, and so she was telling me her mat was really dirty, that she has cats, and of course cat hair gets everywhere. And the silicone mat, I will tell you, I get my own hair all over it. So that's always exciting. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to line this up. I've got 2 mats down here, and I really only want 1. I'll have to ask her because I think she was going to just wash it with some soap and water. and see how that was going to go, just to kind of get all of the stray pieces. I will tell you, it does pick up. If you punch on it, the pieces do tend to stick. You have to try a little harder to get those pieces off. So I'm going to line this up here on my mat, and I just want to line it. I want to use my mat to get my pieces on here straight. So there we go. And I'm not going to push down because I'm not sure. I got to figure out where my center is on this. I think I do have a generous portion at the top and the bottom. And that looks to be, it's about, you're going to be about 1/4 inch from the top and 1/4 inch from the bottom. So when you put your first piece on, put it 1/4 inch from the top. Making sure I've lined up my papers on here straight. Having an issue this morning. I did have some morning caffeine, so I should be thinking clearly. There we go, 1/4 inch from the top. And this bottom piece will come in 1/4 inch from the bottom, or it just butts up right next to that center piece. I really do like this silicone mat. How I have mine sitting here is this piece you see here, this faux wood thing is actually sitting on, it's a just some contact paper that is attached to a 24 by 36, what would be like a quilter's mat, like a big, mat that you put over your surface. So it sits on top of just a cutting table. So I can lift it up. And what I've done is I've slid half of my mat underneath it. So the top of my mat is actually, my silicone mat is sitting under here. And then the edge of it just falls down over the table, kind of into my lap. And then I'm able to just flip it up when I want to use it. So that has been working out really well for me. So there we are at, there we go. We got the top and the bottom, these put in place here. So the next portion that we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I need to grab my mat. We're going to be making that banner piece because we put the banner piece on first before we put all those little squares on, this banner piece. So they want you to cut the banner piece 3 by 2.5. And then you would use your scissors to cut a V shape in from the 3-inch side. So if you have that scrap to cut down to 3 wide by 2.5 inches tall, I am going to be wider than 3 inches because I'm overall 4 inches here. I'm okay with that. What I will be doing is finding the middle. I got to use a ruler and a pencil, and I'm going to be finding the middle of my piece here. And I had ruler. Oh, there it is. So I'm going to be finding the middle. It should be at 2 inches, obviously. If I'm 4 inches wide, I'm going to be here at 2 inches. And it really doesn't matter so much where I put my my dot to make where I'm cutting to the middle. I'm just trying to find the middle. I don't want this to be too substantial, so I'm going to have it come up here, right, and put my dot. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come down, and I need to make sure my my mat is on my cutting mat straight. That's important because I'm going to be using my lines here to guide where I put my outside pieces so I know where I'm cutting. So it really kind of depends on how deep, how steep of the cut do I want it to be. It doesn't matter. I just want to make sure that it's even. So no matter what I pick, I think I'm going to come here. Looks to be about 5/8 of an inch from where I put that dot. I'm just making sure that I'm lined up on both sides. So I'm equally putting that there. I've got my lines on the outside. Now what I can do with my pencil is I can connect those lines. Connect the dot. And I'm doing this, I'm going to do it very lightly. I'll need to be able to erase. If you want, you could just cut with scissors. You may not be able to see it on the screen, on the video, but I can see it, and that's really what I just need to make sure that I can see it. And then I'll come in with my scissors and make that cut. And once I cut the bottom, then I'll come in and chop across the top. The top we want to make sure places in a specific spot. And this is the reason I have to do this is because I don't have exact measurements because my overall piece is a little bit different. I mean, obviously I want it to be about, what does they say, 2.5 inches tall. There we go. If I were to come in with it's 2.5 inches tall, but we can see here that there's a little bit of overlap, that the green banner actually comes up to the top border of the lower piece. So it needs to cover up this entire bit of sand. However, I want my beach happy to be out here invisible, right? So what I need to do is kind of figure out how tall does this really need to be. And it looks like here, if I put this on, if I put my piece on here, I need to go ahead and cut up here. So I'm going to be much taller than the 2.5 inches. So I'm just going to mark where I want it to be. And I'll come in with my trimmer, line it up. I've got my little mark there, line it up and cut. So now it will line up. It will still overlap just like they do in the sample. That overlap, that green overlaps. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tack this into place right now. So there we go. We've got the first couple of steps done for this particular one. I could, if I wanted to, I can still come in here and trim up the sides if I think this is too wide. I could come in and trim that up a little bit. I have a little bit of flexibility here to move this around if I need to. If maybe I want to come over a little bit more to the side. I've got a pretty aggressive border right now because I've got such a big title there. It's because I might find myself, imagine this is a 12-inch piece. If I'm putting it on, do I want the border to be over here? Maybe I want it to be in the middle. There'll be some options. I probably want it more off to the side. It may actually come down midway on the piece, put some pictures at the top and at the bottom as well. So now it's time to make those squares. So I'm going to go ahead and use my trimmer. I need 6 1.5-inch squares. So I'm just going to be cutting it from this scrap piece that I have. It needs to be 1.5. I'll come over here. I always like to measure anything under 1 3/4 inches. For the most part, I will measure off to the right side. Come over here at 1.5. And then cut these into squares. Now the one thing I need to remember here is I'm going to punch a couple of things because I am using, let's see, I was going to punch the umbrella, I think in the blue. The umbrella I'll be able to put on here kind of sideways. I want to make sure that my punches are going to fit because 1.5 is a little, I don't want to say it's small, but it's a little small. Adirondack, I was going to punch in purple. So this is eggplant. What I'm trying, I got to see is my Adirondack chair going to fit on my it's a little tight. Now remember, I am using a 1 3/4 inch piece here. I'm actually going to go ahead and cut some of those. I know I'm going to have a couple, at least 1 or 2 in this dark blue. This it's kind of like a bluish violet from the Electric Summer. I'm thinking what I'll be able to do is actually make these a little bit bigger. Let me see what this looks like. Oak tree is maybe doesn't take up quite as much space as I think I'm going to be okay. The other one I need to punch is sun. Let's see what sun looks like. I've just got some scraps of Buttercup. It's one of the cardstock buffet colors. The sun might be a little bit big, but that's okay if the sun is bursting out. I think that's going to be okay. I don't mind the sun bursting out from the side. I think that's kind of fun when the sun just kind of explodes outside the box. So that'll work out fine. The 1 1/2, I'm just going to continue with that. So 1 1/2 inch squares. And I need 6 of these. So there's 4, 5, and then here's the 6th. So I've got 6 squares. Now I need to punch a total of 6 squares. And I think I'm going to punch 3 in the darkest, this is this violet color. And then I was thinking I was going to come back in. Oh, and that's what I was going to do. I think I was going to do the yellow of this, which will accent the yellow in the sun. So that's kind of my plan. I needed to see how this all looks. I'm going to stick these white pieces on my squares. Yeah, I see the comments about the silicone mats. The silicone mats do not, the adhesive won't stick to the silicone mat. So it works really well when you're putting on the adhesive anywhere where you don't want it to get onto the mat. The big pieces like these squares, it doesn't matter so much because I'm not running over, spilling over into a different outside that. So the question comes into whether or not I want to go ahead and do some, I think I'm going to do them all in that dark blue. And then we'll just have the sun will be that pretty yellow. Sometimes things just kind of figure it out as we go along. So I need 3 more of the blue punches. Yeah, I think the dark blue is just going to work out well for all of them. So that's I have a paler yellow, more of like a lemon color that may not be quite as bold as the, so when I get this putting on here, we'll see. Sometimes I worry about whether or not the yellow is going to be too bold. So then we're going to have these 6, and they're going to be in there kind of tight, 6 pieces. And then we'll be able to come in with placing. And if you wanted to, you could come in with 6 different punches. It really depends on what you've got for punches to use. I just picked 3, so I'll have 2 of each. I could just have 1 sun if I wanted to, and use other, have more chairs and more, I mean, really that would actually work because, I mean, there's only 1 sun in the sky, right? So, but there's multiple chairs and multiple umbrellas on the beach. I think what I need to do is I think I want my sun over here. So we'll rearrange this just a little bit. Yeah, I think something like that is super cute. I am going to trim down my beach. I'm going to trim it and it's going to come up just a little bit. I'm going to take a 1/4 inch off the top and I'm going to cut some off the sides. And I'm going to use my personal trimmer for that. I'm just going to come in and pull a little bit off the top. So it's going to be about 3.5 inches tall, and I will cut off from the sides. I'm going to take it down to 3.5 inches wide. Yeah, I think that'll work just a little bit better. Yep, that looks good. So now I'm going to put all my squares on. And I'm going to have 3 on either side of the 6-inch line. So really, if I think about it, what I'll do is I'll come down here and show you guys. I'm going to bring it down so I'm lined up here at the bottom because I really want to center pieces between like the 6 and the 8. There'll be another piece centered between 8 and 10. And then we'll come over here and put the last one, center it between 10 and 12. That's how you're going to get your spacing. Now I do need to put this piece on. I'm going to put this piece so that it's really a little bit more off to the side here, this direction. And let me get my squares in because I do kind of want to center it, but underneath, I think these first 3 squares. Well, yeah, they center it under this one, the second one in. So we'll do about the same. It's really going to be centered between 1 and 6. So depending on your size, that's where mine's going to end up. It's about 1 1/4. Yeah. One and a quarter inch. That's where mine is starting. Yours might start a little bit differently, especially if it's not, yours is going to be about 1 inch narrower if you're following the blog directions. I'm using repositionable adhesive so I can move things around. I am looking forward to seeing what Creative Memories is releasing for the summer collection. And we won't see that, I think, closer till May. I want to say about May 1st, the first release in May. So early May is when we'll see it. Next week, we should have the April release. So that will be exciting to see what's coming next month. Of course, I still haven't even gotten out on the farm to play with it. I've got it here. I put it in my project folder. It's on my list of things to start playing with. But there we go. Those are nice and evenly spaced. So yes, I do see Kelly's comment. I could flip one of the Adirondack chairs so they're facing each other. So you can do that. That's nice when you're punching cardstock. You can flip one so they're facing each other. Sometimes when you punch, you'll see that it'll have the little stuff that sticks up because you punched it from the opposite side. I have found that if I burnish it, sometimes I just use my fingernail. You can use the multi-purpose tool and just kind of press down those pieces. That can kind of eliminate that effect of when it's punched from the reverse side. But here, I'm going to get my mat out. I want my sunshine to be in the middle. And we will keep everything just kind of pointing to the middle, I think. Do you guys have Adirondack chairs, like the really colorful ones? I'm going to admit to you, Adirondack chairs are not my favorite type of chair to sit in. Probably because I feel I look like a little bit of a crazy person trying to get out of the chair. So, but I have friends who have them at the beach and they are comfortable. She has really colorful ones. They're super comfortable to sit in. I just struggle a little bit to get out of them, I guess. Now here's the question, should I turn this one to the opposite way? Oh, let's see what that looks like. Now it bugs me that this particular umbrella isn't going the same direction as the other ones. Yeah, I think I'll leave the chairs facing each other, but the umbrellas, it can all go that direction. I mean, they probably should go the other direction because that's where the sun's coming from, but whatever, we'll call that good. But that is super cute. I really like that. I love the little banner, the using those squares like this. You can just put any of those embellishments of those punches that you have, the sticker clusters, whatever you want to stick there works great. I love how quick and easy it is to do it with the square punch. So worked perfect. Very excited about this. So now I am all set to go to the beach this summer. Hopefully we get some good weather this summer to do so. All right. So next up, let me clean up my mess a little bit. I've got some scraps flying everywhere. Next up, we're going to do this corner border, and I love the corner borders. They show it here using the Deep in the Woods. I am going to be using it with some really old paper. Well, it's a little bit of a mix. We're going for the watermelon theme. I came across this scrap of paper, and this is really what inspired it. This is from, I believe, Slice of Summer, like 2018 or something like that. It was, or maybe this was 2019 or 17. I can't remember when Slice of Summer came out, but it's been a long time. And I love that it had the two different sides. It has this really fun watermelon on the opposite side. It has the scallop and the lime on the opposite side. And I thought that that would work really well to make these smaller triangles. So you can see here that it's actually 3 triangles. They have a big triangle, and then they have a smaller triangles. It's actually probably the, you could use the same paper using both sides of the paper, or we're going to actually make 2 sets of borders, 2 corner borders from this. So you could use 2 different squares. If you don't like both sides, if they don't work for you, you could use 2 different patterns to make, you'd actually work with 3 total different pieces of paper. I'm going to be working with one and making 2 sets of squares out of this that will make my smaller pieces. And then I'm going to anchor it all just with a piece of dark green cardstock. So I went into my cardstock. I have a project folder that has all my cardstock and the various colors. Each color has its own folder. And I pulled out some different greens. So I've got the dark green. I've got leaf green, which is a retired color. I do have parakeet shimmer. And I think this was like moss, one of the colors that came out of the one of the project or the cardstock buffets that we've had. So because I don't know, you can see here, I've got this lime color. It doesn't quite 100% match all of these. I think I'm going to end up using leaf green for this because I'm working with, I've got some border stickers that maybe I'll use as part of the rest of the layout if I put the full layout together. But I'll probably keep these tucked in with the borders to use there. I've got some tonal paper from the Slice of Summers. The opposite side is the seeds. And then from Summertime, which was 2021's summer collection, I have a couple of embellishments here that have the watermelons on them. So pulled those to have available. You can see here, they do use some punches and a circle embellishment there to kind of anchor and give some detail. So I will be working with those in here as well. Okay, but to get started, we're going to cut a 5 1/4 inch square. That's our big square. So we're going to cut one 5 1/4. And I already told you that I'm going to be using the dark green cardstock. So I'm going to cut this to 5 1/4, 5 1/4. And it's going to be a square. So 5 1/4 square. And then we need to cut it in half diagonally. So we'll cut this in half diagonally. This is when you're doing corner borders, it's so easy to make 2 because you cut these squares. So here's my 2 bases. You can imagine, so I've got my base triangles. My base triangles going. Next up, I need to go ahead and for this, I need 2 4-inch squares. And you can either use completely two different colors or 2 different patterns, or you could use, like here, I'm just going to cut 2 4-inch squares out of this paper because essentially I'm going to be using one side that's going to have the watermelons and the other side will have the scallops, the lime scallops. So we'll come over here. These are 4-inch squares. So I'm going to cut this paper to 4 inches wide and then cut the squares, 4-inch squares. Now, each one of these also needs to be cut on diagonally to make those triangles. Okay, now what we'll be able to do is you can just kind of put these on however you want, accenting whichever color you want. Let me see here. Okay, so there's what we've got going on. Now, what I'm going to do here is I want to go ahead and I'm going to cut a circle detail out of this, out of the tonal pink color that I've got here. I'm going to cut a circle with it. And I really should have spent more time looking for the circle. I really wanted my circle number 2, which that template has gone missing. So we're going to cut, I really would like to use circle number 2 and use the red blade on the inside, but it ran away. So I'm going to use circle number 3, which is the biggest circle with the blue blade on the inside. Assuming I can find the blue blade. That time when you think you prepared well for class. Well, I made the mistake of cleaning yesterday and organizing, and apparently organized myself right into the inability to find things. So we'll use this with the green blade. This is probably going to be a little bit of a bigger embellishment that I'd want. This might be more of a title embellishment here. What I could also do is I have my circle punch. The circle punch is actually, I should remember, the circle punch is really close to the inside of, I think one of the smaller sides of that medium circle number 2. Maybe I'll use this on my other corner. So one corner can have a little bit more of a bigger embellishment. Maybe that's the title. You could have a little bit of a title here. And the other side maybe has just a smaller circle with a cluster. Yeah, I can see definitely having, I'll keep this size here and just kind of treat this almost as making a sticker cluster there. So let me get these pieces adhered. And this really, when you're putting this one together, you are going to want to think about where you're going to maybe want to put your borders. So if you want to have something up, you know, maybe, I don't know if this is going to go at the top. My triangles with my watermelons lend themselves to be a little bit more down in the lower left and the upper right corners, just because of the orientation of my pieces. So I'm just going to kind of treat it down here. And then I can come in and figure out how I want to. Stickers are just so permanent. Trying to figure out how exactly. Well, I don't know. Until I sometimes have like my photos and I know for sure what I want to do. I think I might just do something along those lines. You can always use some foam squares. See if I have any within reach here. There they are. I just have small ones. I need to open another pack to get some big ones out. Foam squares, add a little dimension. And then that could sit on something like that. And then I could come in with a title. Just looking to see what maybe I've got in my stickers. Not seeing a sticker per se right now that is calling my name, is saying put me on there. So I would have to just play around with that. I might have other stickers, but I'd probably come in here at the top with something there. So you can kind of see when you put your things together, you've got some options. Now, in terms of using this on a page, one of the great things we just showed, I see if I can do that. You can sometimes get away with the pinwheel configuration. So these are 4x6, just cut pieces of cardstock. You might need to pull your pieces down to 4x5 to 3.5x5, but you can see here that you can, I've got a big, kind of a big thing here, so I might just come in. It probably would work better with a 4.5 or the 4x5, or come in something like this. So I've got that kind of the fun borders going on. I could even come in with that same size circle over here. And I do have some of these borders that I could come in and do some additional, maybe a little bit here, or however else I wanted to put that on there. You don't necessarily need to, all right? Or you come just with a chain border that is maybe the pink, could bring in there. It really depends on what you use for a background piece of paper. So that would be kind of where I would go with this. I have to see if I can find another scrap to be able to do a bigger piece, or another big, chunky circle if I wanted to have the same circle up there. So that is, I'm going to use this one here as kind of my border 2. We'll say that is what we're going for. I would need to have a little bit of a title, something on here, just to fill in that space, I think. But I'll dig through the rest of my stuff. I might be able to find another set of stickers or titles that would work in that spot. All right. So for the last border, this one is a great one to do. It definitely is just mix and match, make it work for what you've got. Easy enough to put together. Getting some of these pieces out of the way. I am going to be using more of the summertime collection. And I've got this big embellishment that I'm going to see if I can get to work with it, that came as part of the embellishment pack. Summertime had some various components that had the laser cut stuff, and so it was really fun to work with. So I've got this piece that I'm going to try to work in somewhere in here. So this is what I would call, like a stacked border. You just have some rectangles. You need a background piece. They show using a dark green moss, and you're going to cut it to 3.5 inches wide. And then you're going to need a piece of paper that's going to be your base for the rest of this. And where you can see the base is where it's the lighter white color. So behind the Taking It Easy embellishment, and then between all of the grout lines between the other segments are the background here. So you want to use something that's going to contrast to whatever papers you're using here. So I made it real simple. I've got kind of this really white sandish paper is going to be my background. And I'm actually going to the opposite side of it is this palm trees. I'm going to actually cut a background, the mat to this border from this section. So it's going to have those palm fronds sticking off to the side. So I need to cut this. They talk 3.5 inches wide. I am probably going to cut mine just a smidge wider because I want a little bit more of the palm fronds coming through. So I'm going to cut mine just past that 3.5. We'll come here just maybe 3, not quite 3 5/8. I'm just going to be centering the other piece on here, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be super specific. So this is my background piece, the mat, the border to my piece. Now from this sand piece, I need to cut 3 1/4 inch. That's step 2, 3 1/4 inch. And this one, I do want to cut it at 3 1/4. So when I put this on here, I should be able to see, I can see that the palm tree sticking out from the either side. Now I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections of paper. They can repeat, they don't have to be different, but you're working with scraps. Grab what you've got. The top one, they want us to cut it at 1 inch tall. The other ones are all cut at 2 inches. I'm going to make this simple. I don't know which one I want at the top because I want to be able to mix and match and figure out where I want to, the color order, right? I pulled some scraps of paper. I don't know for sure which one. I kind of stuck with the blues, but I did bring in this yellow because I've got the yellow in the summertime. So I've got to figure out a balance to get a little bit of that yellow in there if I want, with all of my other pieces that I've got going on. So I'm going to cut actually everything into the 2 inch segments. So where they talk about step 3 to cut that 1 inch segment to go to the top, I'm going to skip it and I'm going to come down to step 4, and they want me to cut, they show 4 different papers at 3 3/4 wide by 2 inches tall. I'm going to cut 5 at 3 1/4 wide by 2 inches tall, and then I'll choose one of those to chop down to that 1 inch to go at the top. But this is just going to give me that flexibility to move those pieces around where I need to. So all of my pieces here, I need to cut down to 3 1/4 inch by 2. If you've got patterns, look at them a little bit to see. Like I had a little bit more of the turquoisey peacocky color in there, so I kept that side. So that's one of my pieces. I'm going to go ahead and trim down this piece, this to 3 1/4 by 2. There's a second piece. Got to see this piece here looks to be already 2 inches wide, so I'm going to cut it to 3 1/4. And then I have this bigger, chunkier piece of the blue. So I'm going to cut it to 2 inches wide. That preserves a bigger swath of it over here. And then I'll cut that to 3 1/4. And there I've got 4. So I've made the thing where I don't have, I think I'll cut a second one of this dark. I might actually repeat the dark at the top and the bottom. Just gives it that little bit of a balance. All right. So now we're going to start just kind of putting these together. And I will layer some stuff on here. So if I just imagine that I'm going to keep that one at the top, keep that sunshine. I don't know how the summertime is going to work in there. This is a pretty big and bold. I can hear somebody ringing my doorbell. I really hope they don't need me. All right, so that I think is kind of what we've got going on. I kind of wish I'm a little tempted to adjust this because the white, the summertime doesn't stand out from the white super well. So I'm going to see what if I shift this around. I could make it horizontal. I see the comment, or I could turn the whole thing horizontal. You definitely have that option. The biggest thing is if I want to keep that white section, I could come in like that. Now I have some stickers. And I could come in with the Life is Better in flip-flops, because we all know that it is. There, and some other stickers. So sometimes it's hard to make these borders ahead of time when you're not 100% sure how you're going to use them. I think I have another. Oh, there it is. I knew I had another sheet. I also, of course, have these big flamingos, but I don't get to places that have flamingos. I live in Washington, and I think I've only ever seen flamingos at the zoo or in Florida, because they don't have. I've been to Hawaii, but I don't think they had flamingos in Hawaii. So I can appreciate the summer vibe of the flamingos, but it's not a summer vibe that I get much of. So the other thing is I could come in, instead of using this sunshine one, which is a little, or just bring it over here, I could just panel them all. And this is how it sometimes goes, is you have great intentions to do it one way, and then you get going and you're like, I think I'll do it this way. Because I do kind of like the horizontal. It is definitely a very aggressive sized border. It's a little big at that just over 3.5 inches. You could scale this back if you wanted to. I really don't need to have the yellow in there at all if I didn't want to. Let's see here. We're just putting this together. We're making it work. I have those pieces, centering them around that 6-inch mark. There'll be some that overhangs. And then maybe I could come in with something fun there. The Life is Better in flip-flops. I was going to do the summer break sticker. It's kind of a banner sticker. And it says Life is Better in flip-flops. I don't think I'm going to use this piece. I think I'm going to cut another one that has more color to it. So let's see, 3 1/4 by 2. The other part that's really nice about the silicone mat is I've got this sticker. I can just set it on my mat. Get it out of my way. It's not going to hurt. It's going to easily come off from there. So let's put this together. I'm going to put it together as, I'm just going to fill in all the pieces with the summertime, the papers. Let's see here. I might give myself the flexibility to add the stickers later and the embellishment. That will give me the option to be able to see because maybe I do like it on the white instead of bringing in that yellow. Maybe we'll try that. I liked the concept of a white there. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. We'll come in here like this and then like that. Life is better in flip-flops. Just for giggles, I'm going to rotate it. And I want to see if I can squeeze in. Well, the sticker just goes better horizontal or vertical anyway. So we'll do that. I'm going to line up my piece here, and then we will put these pieces on, starting at the middle with a 6-inch, building outward. Start in the middle and build outward. I know I have an overhang on my ends, so that's the part what's easy, just easy for me to chop off. Just trying to maintain. My last piece looks like it starts at about 2 inches from the edge, or 1.5 inches. So I'm going to line that up. I got to push it up. I can't see that I'm about 1.5 inches from the edge. I'm not going to put in the yellow piece. I think it's a little bit too distracting. I'll have the sticker that comes in the middle here. Well, I'm trying to get this on. I want my flip-flop sticker to be centered. And then we'll layer this other sticker. That's how we should do it. Cut off the overhang at the top and the bottom, or the sides, the 2 sides. And again, this is just all about adapting what works for what you want to use. Your embellishments, your scraps. I'm actually wishing I used a different, I may end up actually switching out this back piece because I think it's just a little bit too distracting. Maybe that would be the spot to come in with some yellow. Let's see what it looks like. Or I could come in with blue. Might come in with the turquoise. What do you guys think if I mounted it on the yellow? Let's do that. The yellow should be just a little bit larger. It looked like I was going to be able to use even where I've punched the suns. This piece was originally 3.5. I am just going to bring it up to 3.5. Three and a half. We'll get this adhered. Use up some more of those scraps where I punch those suns. And then the summertime border is going to come in there. I could either go straight, I could tilt it a little bit if I wanted to, but I think that's going to work out really well. I'll put some more adhesive on there later, but there you can see we've got that border. So we have our 3 borders. That last one took a little bit more effort to get to put together, but it's all about making things work, right? So you've got to you may start off in one direction and it takes you a completely different direction by the time you're done. So there's our 3 borders. We have 3 summertime borders all set to go. I will finish up the other half of that one when I get ready to do the actual layout with it. But there we can see just fun, colorful borders made from scraps. These are just using up the scraps in the collections and using cardstock scraps as well. So again, thank you guys so much for joining me. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Next week is my kids' spring break. My younger kids, my college kid was already home on spring break, but next week is my high school and elementary school spring break. So I'm not sure what we're doing yet because we're kind of waiting to see whether the weather is going to be any good to go anywhere. So we may not have Scrapbook Live next week. So hopefully you'll forgive me if I just, figure out a fun place to go, but we might have it. I don't know right now, but we'll figure it out. So just pay attention to make sure you've liked and followed my page. I'll make sure it's blatantly obvious that we either will have it or we will not. And I'll make sure you guys are well aware of that. So, like I said, on Friday is going to be a preview for the new April products coming from Creative Memories. So pay attention. I'll have that information just after 10 o'clock Pacific time on Friday. Might have it a little sooner. Creative Memories is doing a little bit of a sneak peek for advisors tomorrow evening for some fun stuff that's coming up. So if you're an advisor, make sure you've RSVP'd to that webinar that they're going to be doing. And for those of you who are wonderful customers, just know that we've got great, exciting things coming for you later this spring. We'll have all that information tomorrow evening into Friday. And yeah, I think that's kind of it right now. Creative Memories has a promo right now that's going on. There's a few free gifts with your purchase that goes through maybe tomorrow or Friday. I'd have to look. They extended it. Now I can't remember the date. So it's happening today. I know that. You can shop with me. You can shop with another advisor. I always will tell you guys, make sure you support an advisor when you order from Creative Memories online, because we love getting those emails that saying you've got an order. That's pretty fantastic. And we always, always appreciate your support. And we love to share scrapbooking with you. So if you ever have questions about anything, shoot me a message. I'm always happy to help as much as I can. And I will see you guys. If I don't see you next week, I will see you the following week. We will definitely be picking up Scrapbook Live after spring break. So everybody have a fantastic week. Enjoy the beautiful weather if you have it. If you're still cold, if you're still wet, I really hope that Mother Nature improves her mood for you soon so that you have some beautiful weather to enjoy this spring. All right, everybody, take care. I'll see you soon.